So good afternoon all. I'm here to take you on our journey. And without further ado, I will commence. Where did we start? We started with a problem. We recognised that around 1.8 million mattresses a year are discarded. For us, that was a significant problem at Liverpool because we contributed 20,000 mattresses per annum and it was costing us $800,000 a year to do. And the picture tells the story. If we were to put them end to end, it would stretch from Darwin to the tip of Tasmania, which is quite significant as a problem. The other thing that you would all know, mattresses are difficult to get rid of. They're made up of various component parts, and even though we might take them to a recycling centre, a large portion, so somewhere between 44 and 64% by our research, still ends up in landfill, regardless of us trying to have those recycled. That sits at about just over 22,000 tonnes of mattresses go into landfill per annum. It's quite significant. It creates subsidence issues with land in itself. And the other thing, and the last point, which I think is the most important, is that because of the composition of a mattress, it can take up to 100 years for it to break down once it goes into landfill. That's quite significant. What you see here is a 3D render. So this is our site at 600 Cow Pasture Road in Hoxton Park. On the top right-hand part of that picture, you'll see that is our state-of-the-art circular economy education centre. So what that will enable us to do is have an education centre where school kids, universities can participate in, and we will hold circular economy events, including workshops and forums and a whole range of sessions. The other thing, what you can see with the coloured tiles at the front there, we currently operate a community recycling centre at our Rose Street depot in Liverpool. This will do a couple of things for us. First of all, it will give us another one, which is a little bit further west in our LGA. Our LGA is about 34 kilometres and it goes from the Georges River to the Nepean River. So we're pretty much split by a very developed portion to the east and still not so much to the west. So this will enable us to then service our LGA a little better. The big white building, I'm about to show you a picture which will tell you what will be in that. But that is our current site, and I will tell you where we're up to with that. At the moment, what we are looking at in terms of our circular economy centre, see the processing facility, and I'll tell you what will be in that in a little while. The other thing which is really important for us, and I'm going to show you what we have set up, and it's in partnership with the University of New South Wales, and also another private enterprise called Candui. And I'll show you what we're doing there as well. But that just gives you an idea of what is on this particular site. What we have done is quite a number of things. So a high-level project plan, and the green ticks tell you what has been delivered as opposed to what we still need to do. But within that large white building, what we intend to do is have up to 3 industrial shredders operating. We have 2 at the moment, and 1 operates out of the Rose Street depot, and I'll give you some details around that. The microfactory, and the microfactory is operational as I stand here today. It also enabled us to upscale our mobile workshop. So it doesn't only deal with our waste fleet of trucks, but all of our other large plant. So as you would be in councils, you have a lot of plant related to parks, open spaces, and also a lot of civil work equipment and some smaller plant. So that all now gets serviced out of that particular location. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it will enable us to create that state-of-the-art education centre. We then also moved our teams out there. So our operational waste team moved there, our mechanics moved there, and also our circular economy team also moved there. There's a truck wash. What we are doing with the truck wash, we have put an order in to upgrade our truck wash with a new state-of-the-art facility. So by Christmas this year, it will operate on a commercial basis. So it will be made available to the public. It's about 600 metres away from the M7, and what we intend to do then is make it available to the public and to wash trucks, buses and a whole range of other things. So it'll be another commercial opportunity for the council. And the other thing that has been designed, or part of planning and design, will be if we need to have a weighbridge, it will also be involved in there. So what do we have? We have the mattresses, we have the steel, and of course we have the flock. What matters on this particular diagram is the larger box at the bottom. What that tells you, and if you can't read it, I'll just read a few of them out to you, but what products we're able to then manufacture or process the mattress and then manufacture. So what it refers to are civic quality street pavers, blocks, street furniture, tiles, toilet dividers, so cubicles, the walls in cubicles, seats and tables, some public artwork, and also fill for boxing gloves and also the big punching bags and stuff. The other thing we're doing at the moment, we have a number of large projects, as all of you would have, but we are also now working with the designers, and our aim is to have 25% of our buildings now made with our mattress flock and products that we're processing. So whether it ends up being walls, and they're also, as part of some further research, looking to also test structural beams being made out of mattresses. And there's a whole lot of science to that. I'm not the scientist, but that's what they are doing, which is quite impressive. So that is our croc character. What this speaks to is our current capacity operating in Rose Street. So we can process up to 114 mattresses per day. So we have a combination of where we go and collect mattresses. So the community would ring up and book a mattress collection, but we also have mattresses dropped off. We also have some arrangements whereby we deliver what we call a croc cage to other councils, and then their community put the mattresses into that cage, and we then go and collect that cage and process it. On site at the moment, we're able to keep up to 1,300 mattresses without the need for any further licence. We can operate 10 hours a day, 6 days per week, where we are at the moment, and that gives us the capacity to do over 250,000 mattresses per year. And that pretty much will take care of a large portion of the mattress challenges that we have within the Sydney Basin. The other thing that I think is important is when you look at who we have entered into commercial arrangements with, it's not only councils, but it's also contractors and private enterprise, and we're continuing to also do that. So a lot of hard work done by the team to get us here, and they are all here today. So what is our current recovery? So sharing a few more statistics with you. So in terms of high tensile steel, 40 to 44% of that is recovered. The other thing, and it is process engineered fuel. So we're also doing that, and what we are using that product for is that it is being used as a fuel source for kilns in South Australia. So that gets us to a current diversion rate and helps with our WASM targets and anybody that we are in a commercial arrangement with. But the current diversion rate is 96%. And on the next slide, I'll show you where we're up to on some other stuff. But with future, we are aiming to get closer to that 100%, which is important. Our partnership with the University of New South Wales. So this is an example of a tile. So it's pretty sturdy, pretty hardy. So we have used this in a number of our office locations as floor tiles, and also benches. So we started to manufacture these last week out of 600 Cow Pasture Road. They are available now, and we are continuing to deliver other products as part of what the group has set up. So it's a partnership between Liverpool City Council, the University of New South Wales, and a company called Kandui. Some questions we were asked to answer. So how did we get from inception? So somebody had the idea, and Tim Pasley, who is our manager of circular economy, had this idea 5 years ago. It started with us then looking at where can we do this sort of work. You have a genesis of an idea, and as Michael mentioned earlier, you've got to think about, well, we can have the best idea, but where can we put it? Where does it make sense? Where will we be able to deliver what the vision is? So we had acquisition of a property, and it was a bus depot, and I'll share with you the zoning details. Planning and then preparation of the development application. We moved in our mechanical workshop, we relocated our waste team, our circular economy team, and that was part of where we began. But some other things that were really important as well, because none of these are easy. There's been a lot of hurdles, a lot of roadblocks, and some objections to what was trying to be done. As I said, Tim started this project 5 years ago, and through leadership of Tim, also with who I am currently standing in for, Jason Breton, he then took the project up with Tim, got it over the line, convinced council to make the investment in the industrial shredders, and also then all the other infrastructure that was required for us to solve not only our mattress problem, but move towards circularity. And so some other things were in that, but I think the important part is, and Tim does say to me often, that we just need to continue to be persistent. There are going to be roadblocks, it does take time, and I've learned that lesson over and over again, certainly coming into a council. So there is a gap that exists. The state's intention about going to circularity, that whole aspect, and what is available through policy at the moment. And I will share with you some examples of that. First of which is, circular economy is not a defined use within planning. So what does it mean? And then you have the dichotomy that exists between something that has a negative connotation, which is called waste. Nobody wants waste in their backyard, nobody wants it anywhere near them. And the other part is then we look at it as a resource because we are taking a waste product, we recognise it as a resource, we process, and it enables us to manufacture. So, because there is that challenge at the moment in understanding what is circular economy and how we can then move down the path that we have, we are actually going down the route of saying we are manufacturing. We're not setting up a waste facility for circular economy because we have some challenges in that way. So the team has found a way to move forward. As it was mentioned earlier, if you get in the right consultants and support people who also can help and support on these journeys, it's quite important. Some other examples, define as waste, what does it mean? It has a whole lot of regulatory and compliance requirements. If we use the word waste, there's nothing positive about it, it's negative in that way. Whereas if we say we are going to use it as a resource, it has that positive connotation, the sustainability aspect, and that gives us the opportunity to do what we need to do. So, definitions certainly help. This is our site. It is zoned E4 General Industrial Zone. So we can have a depot there, and we can also have an industrial activity, which enables us to process. So we will be going down the path of processing in order to manufacture what I've shown you here. We do have some challenges because it is in a flood zone. Again, the team is dealing with that, but we will continue to move through that. What was the process that we followed? There was a vision. A vision happened a long time before I arrived at council. And all of those other attributes and characteristics of the people involved in this to get us to where we are today, that was important. Planning, finding the zoned land and what the permitted use might be, the development application, and that's an ongoing process for us, and then making sure with the development application we're clear on what it is and that we also then comply with what the regulations require. What would we be able to do better in the current planning pathways? Certainly we believe some definitions around what is waste, because if it's deemed to be waste, it triggers some more unnecessary strict planning requirements, And then for us, regulatory controls. The other thing, if we talk about what it is we do, we take a mattress, and it can be in any form. We process the mattress, we get the steel gets sold to the recyclers, and the flock is used for the product that I showed you earlier. But it's all just packaged up, and if it is called waste, it's then deemed to be high risk. So for us, what we believe is there is a better way that that can be defined, and that we can have different categories of what might be defined as waste and dealt with in a different way. The other part we think that is really important is looking at what we are trying to do or what you might have plans to do, and also then align that to the waste hierarchy. Not just think that is all about disposal, as opposed to then looking at whether we can reuse something or whether we can recycle something. And the last part then is that we look at what it is we are doing, and the environmental agencies who have been supportive for Liverpool Council in a number of ways as well, be able to align so that we can get ultimately to deliver the vision that we have. That's just the Scicluna diagram or the fishbone, whichever way you might happen to know it. I'm not going to talk you through that, but what that identifies are where are the challenges that we have faced, and we recognise the various risks, and we've had to deal with those and address them. Sorry? I don't know if I jumped 2 screens. Anyway, maybe it's the afternoon. It's getting a bit tired. All right, so some other suggestions. So as I touched on, refining what is actually waste, and defining what that is, but also aligning that with some common sense exceptions for what might be lower risk waste products if we're going to stay in that particular way. Having those different classes of waste, of course, waste has that negative connotation, but they're all forms of waste. And I don't know about where you all might come from, but every time we put a shovel in the ground, we hit asbestos, or we hit some other soil contamination, or some lead, or PFAS, and a whole bunch of other things, right? So we're all up against that. So having some categories that recognise that what we might be trying to process and then use for manufacturing could be in a different class, which I think is important. If we then are able to define what is circular economy, then what that will enable us to do is then accurately submit a permit, define what it is we are doing, and then enable us to comply with what that might be. We've taken a different route for the reasons that I have shared with you, because that's what we need to do right now. But these are some suggestions that we might be able to improve. And the other thing that I think is important is the last bit there, and you all understand the SEP versus local planning. Where are the challenges? What matters more? How can we improve the relationship between the two? Sorry? Two? Yeah, this is the last slide. Okay. The last thing, what remains to be done? We need to deal with the flood risk. Okay, so again, and it's greater than 1 in 100 year. I mean, Tim said to me the other day, it's not even close to that, Pete. It's far, far higher. So, but anyway, we need to do that. Make sure that we're clear in our DA around what it is that we are doing. It's processing into manufacturing. Once we get the DA, we'll go through the part where we will then get a construction certificate. We will then start the works and continue around what is a live environment site. The site won't be shutting down. We will do that. And the other thing I think that is important is that it will ultimately be a landmark site once everything that I've shown you here today is in place. Thank you very much.